Hello and welcome to the Program Management and the Art of Communication Certification Program. We're in our fourth course, Designing Project Information Hubs for Program and Project Performance. And in week 1, we're talking about project communication networks. So we're continuing from Module 2 in this Module 3, talking about how to build a communication network for a project. And this is part 2 of that great topic. This is another representation of the transmission communication model. So you're familiar with the part about encoding and decoding messages and how we send messages to each other to develop understanding. And an important part of this is feedback. So I want to know if you received my message and if you received the message that I intended to send to you. So the rest of the module, we're going to talk about the importance of feedback and how to test for understanding and feedback. Understanding and testing for understanding is vital to your project and program management. Let's take status reporting as an example. Who are you reporting to? Senior management, the program customer, or a project team member? What are you reporting? Status about the project, some details about the product to the customer, or some new tasks that you need your program team member to perform? How are you reporting the information? Is it a quick email? Is it a phone call? Is it a text message? How are you making sure that the person receives the information and also testing for the understanding of that information? And then when and where are we reporting this information? So to give you an example, you may be doing a status report to senior management. And when are you doing this? Probably at the end of a meeting where they've been in a meeting for 2 hours talking about all kinds of different topics. And where are you reporting? Well, you're up at the front of the room with your PowerPoint presentation. But at this point, these folks are tired. They're getting ready to leave. And they've given you 5 minutes, which now 3 minutes, to report the status of the project. So you've got to think about how are they going to understand what I'm going to say and how do I test their understanding, especially when they're not paying that much attention. So this is where you got to think about, why am I reporting this information? What do I want to happen? So when you're thinking about this status report to the senior management, you may be reporting, well, we're doing well with the project, but we need some additional funding for some software or some piece of technology, and you're wanting them to support your request. So it's, why am I doing this, and now what? So once I have expressed what I need from these folks, what do I need from them in return? To consider my request, to give me a decision right then, or maybe to talk about this at the next meeting. So when you look at all this, this is where understanding becomes very important, and testing for understanding, because there's a lot of factors that can affect how people perceive your message and what they do with that message. Feedback is vital in risk management. Think of your program and project communication networks. Signals are traveling up and down the networks. They're coming from the team members, they're coming from your stakeholders, they may be coming from your executive sponsors. There's all kinds of signals going through the network. And when risk occurs, when it's starting to emerge, you can see those signals start popping up, maybe at the far end of the network, and they're going to travel to you. So the first component of risk management is identifying the risk. What exactly is the risk? As a project manager or program manager, you're kind of in the middle of the communication network. Sometimes you can't see the far ends. But if you have good feedback, your team members can see those risks occurring and evolving, and they can report back to you what they're seeing, and you start getting a more clear picture of what is occurring with that risk. The second part is assessing the risk. And again, this is where the communication network and the feedback in the communication network and paying attention to those signals really helps, because it gives you an idea of what could be the probable impact of that risk. And just how likely is that risk going to occur? When you have the risk in sight and you've got an idea of the impact and the likelihood of the risk, now we can talk about controlling the risk. So what can we do about the risk? And again, you're going to be spreading out that information back to your team members and to your stakeholders, and we're going to decide on a strategy. So signals are going back and forth, and we need the feedback to tell us, well, what stage is this risk? Is it evolving? Is it coming nearer? Is it becoming more intense? So all these different questions you need to know, or all of these different questions you need to know the answers to help you control the risk. And this is an interesting thing. Why should we care? Well, when you have a large communication network and your programs or projects, sometimes one side of the network can't see the risk while the other side can see it. When we think about the Boston Big Dig, we had 5,000 people, and you can imagine the communication network and how large it was and the different communication channels that were around. And it was hard to see from one side of Boston to the other what risk might be occurring and why I should care about this risk coming towards me. Let me tell you a funny story. When I live in DC and I travel on the metro, and that's the subway that works around DC. And I remember a friend of mine was at a metro station, and he saw water rolling down the walls of the subway station. He saw lots and lots of water coming down the walls. So he got on his train, and when he got to the next stop, he got out and saw a metro worker and said, "Hey, there's a lot of water at the other station, and it looks kind of dangerous." And the metro worker, and I'll never forget this, said to him, "Well, I work at this station. That's their problem." That's why sometimes we need the feedback to help us get the entire network to care about this risk that may be occurring, because we might be preoccupied by a risk that's occurring in front of us, but there may be a bigger risk that's behind us that we're not seeing. And that brings up the point of, how do these risks interact with each other? And it's not just one risk occurs at a time. It would be wonderful in project and program management if a risk could occur once at a time and then we can go into the next one. No, they usually tend to cluster together. They tend to magnify the effects of each other. They tend to pop up when you least expect it. So we need to get all that feedback in our network to help us. Where are these risks occurring? Are they working together? And how can we get to these risks and stop them from compounding their effects? And then finally, we're going to be using feedback to review our risk plans to know that, okay, how do we know that the risk is occurring? How do we know that we've mitigated that risk or solved that risk? And how do we know it hasn't gotten any worse or something else hasn't popped up? So as you can see here, feedback is very important in risk management.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying this free lesson from the University of Maryland's Project Management Center for Excellence. If you want to check out more lessons just like this one, click the link in the description below where you'll be able to go to our website on executive project management. There, you can find edX courses, professional short courses where you can learn from an instructor like me, as well as request custom team training for you and your organization. All right, let's get back to the lesson, and I'll see you at the end.
So here's a great tool. We call it the STAR tool on giving good feedback. So you want the feedback to be specific. I remember when I used to work technical support for computer companies, and people would call me up and say, "My computer is broke." Okay, well, what is it doing? Well, it's not working. Okay, well, what is it exactly doing? What kind of error message did you get? And it says, "Well, I can't see it because my screen's off." Okay, so we got a good start now. We know the screen's not working. Okay, that's specific. And then we can start saying, okay, well, let's look at our cables. Let's look at our power supply. And let's make sure lights are on and things are turned on that should be turned on. Also, giving good feedback, timely. You need to get the feedback just when you need it, all right? In some cases, I've had feedback about a project or program that occurred after the incident occurred. So I've gotten feedback about it, but it wasn't timely. It wouldn't help me avoid that risk or make the corrections I needed to. So it wasn't very helpful. The feedback has to be accurate. Don't guess at this. Don't inject your own opinions into this, but give me an accurate appraisal of the risk or the feedback you want to give to me. So many times I tell folks, you may say that something sucks, but tell me how it sucks. Tell me in what way it sucks. I need some more accuracy here so I can actually approach that problem and work with it. Also, I need to make sure that it's reliable feedback. Great example I give in class all the time about this. I used to own a car that its gas gauge, once it hit half a tank, it would stop. And so I knew when I had a full tank to half a tank, but once I hit half a tank, if it was below half a tank, I wouldn't know because the gauge wouldn't tell me anymore. So I could be on empty, but it would look like it was at half a tank. That's not a reliable piece of feedback for me, especially when I'm driving. I'm wondering if I need to fill up. And finally, the feedback has to be relevant. So is it relevant to the task? Is it relevant to the program or project? In other words, it might be interesting feedback. Probably one of the most interesting pieces of feedback I got when I was doing a project briefing was a person said to me, I like your slides. I like the way the program's going. I like the status update. You use too much blue in your PowerPoint. So interesting feedback. Not sure how that's relevant to the program or project I'm working on. And not sure why this person didn't like the color blue, but that's why we have the STAR tool for giving good feedback. Specific, timely, accurate, reliable, relevant.
Hey there, did you enjoy that lesson as much as I did? If you did, go ahead and give us a like. If you want to see another one, go ahead and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, put them below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Moreover, is there somebody in your life who really needs this lesson right now? If so, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Now, we look forward to seeing you in the next lesson where you can learn even more from the University of Maryland Project Management Center for Excellence. Thanks so much.